Welcome to the weekend market wrap up where we're going to go through stocks, crypto, forex, take a look at maybe some individual names that are looking kind of interesting. And just a reminder to all, this will be the last week of the free algorithmic picks given by my algorithms that I've been working on for many years to email subscribers only. So make sure you go to StatsEdgeTrading.com and sign up for the Substack there. Again, this will be the last week. This will be offered for free. And next week, I'll be launching a product, which I'll explain more about in videos that will launch this week. So wherever you're seeing this video, make sure you stay tuned there as well while I describe that. Now, without further ado, let's get into some charts. Let's start here, as always, with Bitcoin. That's not Bitcoin, that's Bitcoin. And we're taking a look here on the weekly chart. So we broke this prior low right here on the Bitcoin weekly. However, we came back late in the day, and that's actually today that this happened. We came back late in the day to retake this. So the weekly candle technically doesn't close for 2 days in Bitcoin. So I'm going to be watching this one this will be Saturday and then Sunday to see if we get a little bit of bounce off this level. I really think this zone right here is one to watch, but so far it's looking like the double high that's happened right here may be holding for now. So we talked about this for a while, that this range right here was just us digesting this range over here, and that so far continues to be the case. I need to see before I get really bearish, I need to see a drop, a comeback up to maybe retest and make some sort of lower high and then continue lower. I'm not really interested in shorting Bitcoin right here. I'm still in the camp that I think that there's just going to be, a big old mess that takes place here for a long period of time until it resolves itself one way or the other. Ethereum, we've been talking about some relative strength that's been going on here in Ethereum, and it's still holding true, right? So we just noticed that Bitcoin's candle looked kind of like this and then bounced back up. Ethereum got right to these prior lows right there, and then we bounced. So interesting that, Ethereum, if we zoom out, is still overall relatively weak, as we couldn't get to this prior high right here. We couldn't get up here, but in the interim is being relatively strong as it's holding this level right here. So some interesting relative strength, relative weakness talk in Ethereum. And we can't talk about that at all. We're talking about Solana, which not only is holding this zone right here, you can see the prior resistance right here acting as support right there. Not only is it holding that and holding that really well, if we look at the daily chart, and I was talking about how much this was a bad day for everything else, we're holding these lows right here in Solana and seem to be bouncing off those pretty well. So there's a moment of truth, we could say, coming up for crypto. If we bounce back up to these areas and then just fail from them entirely, that doesn't look too great to me. And just so you guys know how I look at crypto, I'm not a crypto is going to go to $1 million. I'm not crypto is a scam. I'm very kind of intellectual and detached, you could say, from a lot of these cryptos. And the reason for it is that I just look at these as risk assets. Take Bitcoin and line it up to the NASDAQ, and it gets pretty close, showing that these are just risk assets. They're just places that people put money when they're feeling risk on. And that's how I look at them. I will trade them like any other securities. uh, I'm not a crypto hater. I'm not a crypto lover. I am just it's an instrument to trade. I'm looking for major levels to play it off of. We're starting to see some of those happen, so I'm interested to see kind of what happens going forward. Now, into gold and silver. If we're back here on the weekly chart, you can see gold has been holding this area pretty well. And we had a nice bounce off that recently, holding this high here and had that prior resistance. We continue to digest. If you remember, we go to the monthly chart, and I talked about this tweezer top that happened in the monthly chart, and then that could lead to a little bit of a pull down or some digestion. It looks like we had an inside month, and then we just had this digestion month so far. We're only a couple days in, but looking more and more like it could be maybe some sideways chop before a move higher, as opposed to a kind of collapse. So I'm just keeping an eye on this going forward. We are in this range right here in gold, and then silver relatively strong. Right. When we pulled back in silver, we didn't quite have that same monthly top. We didn't have that same tweezer top here in silver. So seeing some relative strength in silver and had a really good week this week as we held this prior low right there. We bounced off it a couple times and then we've started to move higher. Taking a look at the dollar completely fell apart. This was a tweet I had a number of days ago in which I was looking at this ascending upward triangle, and you can see this wedge was just getting tighter and tighter as we were moving higher, and we were moving higher into this zone right here. So we collapsed out of that a couple days ago, and now we've had some down moves. So we need to see what happens when we bounce here on the dollar index, whether or not sellers come in at a higher price, and then maybe we're going to go retest this low. And if that low breaks, maybe we'll go retest this low right here. But ever since this pattern broke, it seems like it's going to take a look at the short side of the dollar. Have to talk about the yen just because this is absolutely insane. We talked about how this area right here is when the Bank of Japan put their foot down and said, we are done with you guys messing with the yen. We were going to defend the currency. The market sold off for a couple days and then just started to laugh and say, no, we're going to take this thing higher. It'll be interesting to see if there's another bank intervention that comes in to cause another one of these flushes. But so far, the trend remains perfectly attacked in the yen. All right. Last but not least, I wanted to take a look at Aussie CAD, which is something that I've been talking about for a while. And this anchored view app I'd been looking at to see if we were going to bounce from it. We actually just spent a long period of time chopping around this and then we pushed higher. So I'm actually flipping my stance and saying, okay, maybe Aussie CAD is going to start to look to move higher. So I need to keep an eye on this next week for that potential move. Now, let's get into stocks here. And as always, we'll start with SPY with a nice solid breakout candle. This unrelenting trend continues to be unrelenting and continues to smack the bears down. Now, this tweezer top is something that I talked about that I was worried about. That got completely negated this week. Unless we have an awful week next week, then this is one of those things that I'm not super interested in fighting by any means. I'm not looking to really get involved in this one way or the other if we're going to have this move that kind of rips right in our face. So I'm just going to continue to stay long. I'm still long everything. I took a little bit of a defensive stance for a second there. That didn't work out. The trend continues. So I'm going to continue to stick with this trend as long as I can. Now, it's interesting to see this WGMI actually closing at highs. And this is the Bitcoin miners ETF. So this is a combination of all those little crypto miners actually seems to be breaking out this week when stocks are doing poorly. So I just wanted to note that before I forgot. Now, when it comes to everything else, to be honest, the stock market was a little bit slow this week. And that's because we had a half day and then we also had a full day off. But one thing that's really keeping my interest is this MDY. If we look at the MDY and we look at the RSP, this gives me a good kind of understanding of what the rest of the market's doing. So the SPY continues to break out. The SPY is continuing to hit highs, but we're seeing in the equal weight sectors and we're seeing in the mid caps and the small caps here with the IWM, they're not getting that same lift. So it continues to be if you own mega cap tech, you're in a nice uptrend. If you own anything else, you're having a hard time. So Meta, for example, with a nice breakout this week, Apple with a big strong move this week as well. This these names are some of the names that actually are showing up on my algorithms, which again, I will send the output to those algorithms, including with entries and stop loss and everything, to the subscriber base very soon when I put these together. So again, if you're signed up for that, you will get that sometime this weekend, probably on Sunday. But it's looking for pullbacks in these strong names because they're the ones that continue to work. We have to continue to look to trade them until they stop working. But if you owned pretty much anything else, you didn't have a good time. Copper, nice little breakout. We already talked about gold. We already, we're talking about wheat actually moving higher. So There is some commodity play, but really it's the same story that it's been all year. You're in mega cap tech, you're having fun. You're not in mega cap tech, you're not having fun. So make sure that you're keeping focus on the fact that, okay, I'm going to continue to be in these mega cap tech names until something happens. So a discretionary pick, because I'm still going to give you guys my discretionary picks as opposed to the algorithmic ones. I really like the look of Snapchat here. I did a video about it, or a post sometime this week. Don't worry, my analysis on the markets will always and still remain free. And the trade a day, which, if you're not signed up for the email list, I send out a trade idea generally every day, uh, just broken down. I sometimes do a video, I sometimes just do the email, depending on what the timing in my life is like. Those aren't changing. It will just be for the people who want to have algorithmically designed picks. And Snapchat was one of these discretionary picks. And I really like the look of it. You could take a quick look here and see a potential. There's your cup, and there's your handle right here. So we had this big, nice gap on earnings right in here saying, hey, people still use Snapchat. We had this nice kind of cup as they digest this little handle happening here, and a nice up day that corresponded a lot with, again, I showed Apple, I showed Meta, all of these big cap, or all these high tech names are still moving. So I'm looking to see if Snapchat is going to continue to break out of this cup and handle. I think that will be a pretty good risk reward trade, which will be, if we can break this high right here, that's where I'll be interested. A stop loss goes below that zone. I could very easily see making 2 times my risk, which, again, for my discretionary trades, I want to get in, I want to make a couple times my risk, I want to get out, and I kind of want to move on with some of these trades. So that's what I'm looking at for this week. Again, make sure you're signed up to that email list so you don't miss what I'm going to talk about on Sunday when I send that out. And I will talk to you guys soon. And until then, get away from the screens.